me, I be on the block with my thing cocked, possibly sitting on a drop now. Because I'm a rider. Oh, yes, a soul survivor.
Good morning. So if everybody could stand up. So I'm gonna make a statement. If this is true for you, just step up and then step right back, okay? I live in a neighborhood where there has been a shooting. I know someone who has been shot. I am afraid of being shot. I am afraid that someone I love will be shot.
It's crazy to me how people can have a totally different life experience than somebody else depending on their race and their location in this world. And how the Black population in Chicago's South Side can live in fear of losing their life every single day or losing somebody that they love. Chicago is a city that's been known for its gun violence, at least on the South Side. And for some reason, it wasn't until last year, 2018, that the South Side got a place to treat those gunshot victims. Between 1991 and 2018, there has been no level 1 trauma center to treat victims. If you got shot or stabbed, you'd have to wait for an ambulance, which could take up to 30 minutes, and then wait another 30 minutes without traffic, that is, to get to a hospital. And don't get me wrong, it's not like there's no hospitals on Southside Chicago. There is. But to get treated for a stab wound or a gunshot wound, you need a level 1 trauma center, which is different than a hospital because it has different equipment and specialized doctors to treat those wounds. In 1991, the trauma center at Mccool Hospital closed down, and the trauma center at the University of Chicago hasn't operated since 1988 because it was losing millions of dollars until finally last year, the University of Chicago opened up their level 1 trauma center. So for decades, people in Chicago were protesting to get a place to treat these gunshot victims.
We got our first look at the brand new $35 million Level 1 Adult Trauma Center. The new facility is specialized, including unique rooms for sexual assault victims and patients needing mental health services. Doctors here say that's key.
We want to touch lives beyond the context of sewing people up and sending them back into the communities in which they live.
Since the hospital has been open from May 1st, 2018 through March 31st, 2019, the center has cared for 3,058 trauma patients. I tried looking up the number of homicide victims from gun violence in Chicago for about the past 5 years just to give you the statistics, but every single source that I looked at had different numbers, so who the fuck knows what the statistics are? All I know is that since 2018, when the hospital or the trauma center was built, the numbers of the homicides due to gun violence have been going down. And I don't know if that's related to the hospital being built and being accessible to the victims, because a lot of people were dying because they didn't make it to a hospital in time. My question is, why did nobody do anything to help these people for 25 years? Could the government not have dedicated some tax money towards building a new trauma center? Could some benefactor not have donated money to help? Millions of dollars may seem like a lot, but there are individuals and companies and organizations that do have that to spare. The problem is that you don't really gain profits from hospitals or trauma centers, especially because in areas with low income, they can't afford health insurance, they can't afford treatment, so there isn't profit to building a trauma center, and they are expecting to operate at a loss. It just trips me out because white supremacists put this system into place where they segregated many Black citizens into the poorer areas of the cities, and then they incepted this idea into their minds that they can't get out of the hood, and some of them join gangs, and they see their fellow brothers in the Black community as their enemies, so they do the white man's job by killing one another. And why would the people in power help those that are dying in the streets when they created the system in the first place? And they gain from it. And besides, helping your fellow man requires empathy. sociopaths just don't have empathy.
George Bush doesn't care about black people.
Damn, I missed the old Kanye. The majority of the victims of homicide in Chicago are young black males. For 2019 victims, 282 were black, 221 were unknown race, 24 were white, and 6 Hispanic. Majority were between the ages of 20 and 30, and 473 were male, 60 were female. It got so bad in the South Side that citizens were teaching one another how to treat gunshot wounds.
I just lost 6 people this year to violence. So when we were over here learning, I was breaking down and stuff, but I wanted to continue to learn. I couldn't just walk away from it.
So when you're training, you see essentially your friends that were killed, and that's part of the motivation.
Yeah, because one of my closest friends, I call him my brother, he was shot 5 times, and to think about him not being able to breathe because he got shot in the chest, and that's how he died, from a gunshot wound to the chest. That a lot of people could learn this, but nobody knows that there are people out here to teach us this. So I have to learn what to do to help so that my boyfriend or my little brother or my mom or my dad doesn't get hurt.
Though police are the primary first responders, their job is to secure the scene, and they have no legal obligation to provide medical care. You were shot once, right?
Yeah, I was shot.
What about?
In my thigh, like almost by my groin.
And did the paramedics show up with the cops, or did the cops show up first?
Cops showed up first.
What did the cops say? What was that like?
They didn't do nothing. They just waited till the firefighters came, and then the ambulance came last.
So the cops saw you were shot and did nothing?
Yeah.
I could say, you know, the burden shouldn't have to be on us, but at the end of the day, who's burying babies? Us. You know what I mean? At the end of the day, who is losing our mothers and fathers and cousins and uncles? It's us. It's frustrating, and I feel like it's the most traumatizing to see my people suffer when there's a solution.
I wanted to make this video because I saw Vice's video on violence and gunshot victims in the South Side when they put out a video 3 years ago, and it's still in my mind because it messed me up so bad how people out there have the money to help. People have the money and the resources and the opportunities to make a difference, but because there's no payback, there's no profit for them in it, they won't do it. Most people nowadays only operate on a what can you do for me basis. Like, isn't it so fucked up that we have the money to fix all the plumbing in Flint, but nobody will do it? They had the money to build trauma centers in the South Side. They just didn't do it because they wanted to gain money. They have the money to build community centers and organizations for kids to go to so that they're not out in gangs doing drugs on the streets, shooting each other. I was looking at this article that was telling the statistics about deaths and homicides due to gunshot violence. And I was scrolling down past the statistics, and then it started listing all the names and the date of deaths and the ages and races for all the people that were killed. I think it was last year or something. And I just started crying because I was just thinking of it as statistics and like saying, whoa, look at all these huge numbers of people dying, and it isn't that crazy. But then I thought about each individual person losing their life, and now they're not here anymore, and their family has to deal with that. Like, imagine your son or your brother or your father or your sister going out one day, and then you just never see them again, and they're laying in the streets, and somebody could help them, you know, get them to a hospital faster or treat them on the spot, but the police are standing by and they won't let you touch them, and they're just gone. Like, it's just crazy to me how the world works, how people are.
If you're looking for me, you can find me on the block disobeying the law. A real G, thoroughbred from the streets, pants